Welcome to Ranking of Sports, and we are here to discuss NFL Week 14. Now, before we get started, I wanted to look at the NFL playoff picture for this season and how it shaked out after Week 14. Now, obviously, the Patriots stay at number 1 because they didn't play this week. The Titans, they had a victory over the Jags. They are number 2. The Chiefs moved up a spot because the Ravens lost. And the Chiefs are 3 because they lost to the Titans, so the Titans own the tiebreaker over the Chiefs right now. You have the Ravens, they lost to the Browns. They fall down to number 4. The Chargers didn't change. They stayed at 5 with their victory over the Giants. The Colts didn't even have to play, and they moved up 3 spots. The Bills stayed at number 7 after their loss to the Buccaneers. And the Browns are now 7-6 with the chance to make the playoffs. The Bengals loss didn't help them any. They're 7-6. They moved down. Broncos, with their win, they move up. The Steelers, they lost on Thursday night, so they're down. The Raiders had a massive loss to the Chiefs, so they're down. And the Dolphins could make a sneaky playoff run themselves. You look at the Cardinals, they play tonight. They are stagnant right now. The Packers didn't change. Bucks didn't change. Cowboys didn't change. Rams, as of right now, did not change. The 49ers moved up a spot with their victory, and Washington is still number 7 after they lost to the Cowboys. They moved down to number 7, like I said. Then you have the Vikings. Their win against the Steelers got them to the 8th seed if there were 8 teams. The Eagles, they moved down even after the bye. I mean, the Falcons, Saints, Panthers, Seahawks, Giants, Bears. I mean, I really don't see any of them really making a chance to do it. I just don't think there's a chance with any of those guys. Saints don't have a quarterback. Falcons not very good. Eagles maybe can make it in, but I think the Eagles, Falcons, Saints, Panthers, Seahawks, Giants, Bears, I just don't see. I mean, there always is a chance, but I just don't see them making it. Like over here on the AFC side, the Dolphins I think will make it. I don't see the Raiders making it. The Steelers could, but I don't see the Steelers doing it. Broncos, not really a chance for them. Bengals, they would really have to play better. Browns, again, have to play better, but the Bills, they still showed toughness. And then the Colts, obviously, are a much better team than I think their record shows. So I think it's still a wide open playoff spot or playoff race with only the Lions, Jaguars, Texans, and Jets eliminated as of right now. But there's just a lot of things that are going on in this playoff picture. So let's just jump right in to these games. The first game we have is the Saints defeating the Jets 30-9. I'll be honest, no one really cared about this game because these teams I don't see are making a playoff push. But I mean, the only things I took out of this game is Zach Wilson is absolutely terrible. He had one of the worst intentional groundings that I've ever seen, and it wasn't because of the refs and missing a call. That Zach Wilson had absolutely one of the worst throws I've ever seen. Like, we gave Carson Wentz a lot of crap early on in this season, but that was a pathetic and terrible throw. People think he is getting better every week. I think Zach Wilson played absolutely poorly in this game, and I think he's getting worse every single week. The Jets are absolutely terrible, and Alvin Kamara was back after missing 4 games. I think he had a very, very good game, and I think the Saints offensively missed him quite a bit. Had 120 yards rushing. Taysom Hill as a quarterback, I don't think it's very good. I think he had a really bad turnover or a bad throw or something like that. It was just something really bad on his end that was not good at all. He had 2 nice running TDs. One of them basically was in garbage time when the Jets had no chance, but it is what it is. Yeah, but he looked good, but he was playing the Jets, so take it for what you will. Robert Sala, I think, is a terrible coach. He's supposed to be a defensive mind, but as a head coach, I don't think he's going to cut. He doesn't cut it in the NFL. He's a great defense coordinator. When he was with the 49ers, I don't think the Jets are any good. I don't think Robert Sala is necessarily that good of a head coach. Zach Wilson is terrible. I don't like him. I think Zach Wilson, there's going to be a lot of work that's going to have to be done with Zach Wilson. I don't think he's good. Taysom Hill, again, I think he signed one of the worst contracts probably ever. I mean, for him, it benefits him, but the Saints, I don't know what that contract was. So I think the Saints are going to be in the market for a quarterback unless they think Jameis Winston is their quarterback next season. But I think for these two teams, obviously Jets eliminated from the playoffs, but the Saints, I mean, I don't know about the Saints. I really don't. I think if their defense can hold, they can probably make a push. But with Alvin Kamara back, like I said, they can make a push, but it's going to be a lot of work for them to do that. Next game, we have the Falcons defeating the Panthers 29-21. Cam Newton got benched, then came back in. He's not very good. He's not. It was a cool story the first week that he was back, the whole I'm back thing. That was great to see for a couple weeks, but Cam Newton is absolutely terrible. He could still run the ball very, very well, I think. But that was a really bad performance by Cam Newton. I don't think he played well at all. I think the Panthers are just a really bad football team. They started off 3-0 and they won, 2 games since then? 2-8 at this point or something like that since they started 3-0. They're a really bad football team. But yeah, like I said, Cam Newton threw a pick six, tripped, fumbled the ball on one of the plays, which looked terrible. PJ Walker threw an interception, and then they decided to bring Cam Newton back in the game. So I think the Panthers are just a bad football team, and the quarterback situation is not very good. Matt Ryan, I mean, the only thing that I got from Matt Ryan is he had a nice shimmy on one of his throws. But I think Matt Ryan played a fairly good game. I think the Falcons played a fairly good game to win this. But the Panthers stink. They're really bad. And I have no idea why Matt Rule is still the head coach of the Panthers right now. Like, he has no idea what he's doing with his quarterbacks. He fired Joe Brady for who knows why. He's running this team bad. And I mean, I could see why on this game, why people wanted to see him fired. It was just a bad performance. He has, like I said, he has no idea what he's doing with Cam Newton or PJ Walker. Neither one of them are good. Sam Darnold is really the only one that won with them. He was the one there when they started 3-0. So I'm not saying Sam Darnold's the answer, but maybe they need to put Sam Darnold back in because this was a really bad performance all around by the Panthers. And I mean, firing Joe Brady, like, who knows why he did that? I think he's just trying to show that he's a good coach, something that he knows how to run an organization. But I don't understand Matt Rule, and I don't think he's a very good head coach. The next game we have is the Seahawks defeating the Texans 33-13. I mean, the only thing I really did, I watched this game when it was on Red Zone, but I really just watched the highlights of this game. I'll be honest, when I was watching Red Zone and I saw the Seahawks give up a touchdown, a wide open touchdown in like one of the first plays of the game, I thought it was going to be a really bad game for the Seahawks. Like, it was wide open. I'm like, oh, great, the Seahawks are going to let down against a really terrible, terrible Texans team. But it turned out to not even be that close of a game. Russell Wilson had a rainbow type ball, whatever you want to call it, to Tyler Lockett. It's amazing. Like, that's something Russ and really nobody else can do. That kind of throw that he makes is fantastic, and it's really awesome to watch and see. But yeah, Tyler Lockett and Rashad Penny, both of them had great games for the Seahawks. They looked really, really good. And the Seahawks, I mean, Russell Wilson's finally fully healthy, so maybe they can make a push to the playoffs, win the rest of their games, win out, go 9-8. It's going to be a tough task, but I mean, if anybody can do it, it'd probably be Russell Wilson and that Seahawks team. It'll be tough, but maybe they can do it. But yeah, how many times do I have to say this Texans stink? I mean, Davis Mills put up big numbers, but it wasn't really that good of a game for them. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see the Seahawks have a dominating win, but at the same time, they're going to have to do a lot of work to make a push into the playoffs, especially with the division that they're in right now, with the Cardinals and the Rams hoping to look really good and the Rams trying to improve. So it's going to be tough, but like I said, if any team can do it, it'd probably be the Seahawks. Next, we have the Browns and the Ravens. The Browns won 24-22. Yeah, the Ravens literally run through Lamar Jackson. Once he got hurt, I mean, the Browns did try. Tyler Huntley came in, made some good throws, tried to keep the game close, played fairly well, tried to keep them in the game, and I think he did a okay job doing it. Like, they had a chance at the end. I think they recovered an onside kick, but they just couldn't do anything on it. Their play calling was terrible at the end of that. They couldn't even, they needed like 4 yards, and they threw the ball like 2 yards short on a fourth down. Like, that was bad. That's not something that you want to do if you're trying to make a push in a desperation victory. I mean, like I said, the Ravens literally run through Lamar Jackson, and once he got hurt, it was bad. Like, the Browns defense looked really good. Clowney and Garrett both dominated this game. Garrett forced a fumble and returned it for a touchdown. Like, he could be defensive player of the year. Like, that's how good it is. The defensive player of the year conversation's kind of stacked because you have Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. Like, those three guys are just absolutely dominating right now. So that race could be really, really tight. And that if they wanted to, they could just give Micah Parsons defensive rookie of the year, and then give TJ Watt or Myles Garrett the defensive player of the year. Just that way, you know, they can still have two guys that deserve it, because but all three of those guys really deserve it. Those three are dominant, really, really dominant. I like what those three guys do. The Ravens, like I said, they're injured to heck and back. They tried all game to get back in this. And I said, Huntley made some great throws. They have Mark Andrews, who's a legit tight end. He is so freaking good. He's really good. But the Browns defense was really the story of this game. Came up big for the win. Had a dominating game. Clowney, Garrett dominated this game. They look good. Browns-wise, I don't know if they can make the playoffs. They have a lot of work that they're going to have to do to make the playoffs because they really did struggle at times during the season. The Ravens are so injured that at this point, if they don't make the playoffs, it may not matter. But the NFC North is literally so wide open right now that it doesn't really matter. Ravens 8-5, Browns 7-6, Bengals 7-6, and the Steelers are 6-1. It just feels like nobody wants to win this division at all because the Ravens are on a 2-game losing streak. The Browns won, so they're on a 1-game winning streak. Bengals lost 2 in a row, and the Steelers lost to the Vikings. So that division is absolutely stupid. Nobody seems to want to win it. It's going to be a dogfight to the end. And I mean, at this point, who knows? The Steelers could end up winning it. I don't know. I don't like anything the Steelers do, but the Steelers looked okay late in that game against the Vikings. The Bengals, we'll get into that, looked good at times, but they lost to the 49ers. The Browns obviously beat the Ravens, and the Ravens, who have lost 2 in a row now, and Lamar being out is really not going to help them much, and that's really going to hinder their season for probably the rest of the season. But the Browns did pull out the victory against the Ravens. Next, we have the Cowboys and the Washington football team. Cowboys won 27-20. Earlier in the week, Mike McCarthy guaranteed a victory, and I thought it was one of the dumbest things that he could have done because I thought that was giving the other team way too much bulletin board material. But it turned out that I guess the Cowboys did end up winning this game. They were so petty that for some reason they brought their own benches to the sideline. So I was like, whatever, man. Whatever. You do your thing, Cowboys. You just seem like a petty team right now. But Mike McCarthy was right. They had a pretty convincing win, I'd say. Randy Gregory had a really good game for them, an interception. Micah Parsons is a legit defensive player of the year. He's by far the defensive rookie of the year. I think he's winning that easily, and I don't even think it's close. Like, he's been so dominant all year long for a guy who doesn't rush the passer as much as he should, but still is like, what, 7th in the league in sacks or something crazy like that. Like, that just shows the amount of skill and talent that guy has. I mean, he could be in contention for defensive player of the year for how well he's been playing. Like, they have a legit dominating defense right now. And the Cowboys, like I said, Micah Parsons, monster. But yeah, the unit for the Cowboys that's been the best all year as of right now is the defense. Like Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, those two guys, they're young, they're quick. I think their weakest player on their defense is probably Anthony Brown because he got burned against the Raiders so badly. But I think as a whole, the Cowboys defense is definitely the unit for them that will lead them to victory and lead them to a deep playoff run if they're going to do well, because Dak, I don't think, has been playing very well recently. I mean, he beat the Cowboys, or he lost to the Raiders, beat the Saints, but then, beat the the Washington football team, but he didn't look very particularly well in any of those games. But, he threw a terrible interception that caused a pick six for Washington when they should have been running the ball at that point in the game. But yeah, the Cowboys itself are only good because of their defense right now, because their defense caused 4 total turnovers and 5 sacks. And Washington itself is a bad football team. Heineke seems to be great one week and then terrible the next week. He's very inconsistent. I like him a lot. He seems like a guy that plays with a lot of heart and plays very hard every single week. But he's really good at making special plays every week. And then it just seems like he does nothing else. Like the play to Cam Sims was really awesome. He did get hurt and Kyle Allen did come in. But I think the Cowboys, their defense is definitely better than their offense by far. And the Washington football team, I don't think they're very good. They're not very good. I'll be honest. That 4-game win streak they have was nice for them, but their season could be honestly coming to an end just because of this one loss here. They could still sneak into the playoffs, probably as a 6 or 7 seed, more than likely a 7 seed, but I don't see them going far at all in the playoffs if they do make it. Next, we have the Titans and the Jaguars. Titans won 20-0, and all I have to say about this game is Urban Meyer stinks. I do not like him. He was an a-hole for not shaking Mike Vrabel's hand after the game. He basically called everyone out for being a loser early on in the week when he is the head coach, and he's the one that runs the team. I don't know why he called his coaching staff losers. He won in college, but he hasn't done anything in the NFL to show that he's not a loser. He's like, oh, show me your resume. I'm like, dude, you need to show your NFL resume. You haven't done anything. You had what some people say a generational talent who's playing poorly. You refuse to use James Robinson, and you just stink, and your teams don't look like they're ready to play. And you got shut out by a team that's literally missing every one of their key players right now. The Titans have used the most players in a single season in NFL history, as what I thought I read, and they still shut you guys out. Like, you guys, the Jaguars are terrible. Urban Meyer stinks. Like I said, he hasn't done anything in the NFL to be calling people out like he has. If anything, he needs to be the one being called out for not having his team ready, killing the career of Trevor Lawrence. And I don't like Urban Meyer. I think he's a terrible head coach. It started this offseason and it's been bad all year for him. I think Urban Meyer's terrible. And credit to the Titans. I was wrong about them. I said that they're not going to do anything. I know it's just the Jaguars, but I mean, it's the NFL. You shut a team out, but Jaguars are going through dysfunction with absolutely the dumbest head coach in football right now. But it's good to see Titans still showing up, still playing good enough to shut teams out, win games with all these backup players. And maybe them just holding on with all their players hurt, maybe that is enough for them to, stay alive just long enough to make a deep push in the playoffs, because they may need that. But yeah, I mean, just as a whole, I think the Titans played fairly well. Ryan Tannehill did his signature finger roll touchdown celebration, which was kind of awesome to see. But Trevor Lawrence had an absolutely terrible game. I don't know if it's just he's bad in the NFL and that the NFL is not for him, or Urban Meyer's a bad head coach. The team is terrible, and he threw 4 interceptions. I don't think anything the Jaguars do is good, and I don't understand how the Buffalo Bills lost to this football team. I really do not. Next, we have the Broncos defeating the Lions 38-10. The tribute to Demaryius Thomas at the beginning of the game was very, very awesome. They only put 10 guys out in the field, took a delay of game for him. That was super sweet. That was awesome to see. That was awesome class act, and great by Dan Campbell to not accept the penalty. That was really awesome. The Broncos, just as a whole, they dominated this game. It really wasn't close. I mean, that narrative of the Lions being tough all year, that died. I mean, I think they were out or without half of their roster because they had the flu or COVID. They were all sick and stuff like that. But the Lions are just back to being a really bad team. This was just a complete stomping by them. I mean, I guess we can use the excuse that the Lions didn't have their team there, but I mean, that looks like they're back to being a terrible franchise just as a whole. And I don't see the Lions, obviously the Lions are finally eliminated from the playoffs, I think it was. I mean, the fact that they stayed alive that long is just impressive, and how weird the NFL as a whole has been when it comes to the teams winning in the playoff scenarios. But I think the Lions just stink. They're not good. Jared Goff stinks. They're bad. There's nothing good. There's nothing nice you can say about the Lions. There's really not. I don't know why I'm wasting this much time talking about the Lions and how bad they stink. Everybody knows they stink. Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater, I think, had a fantastic game. Noah Fant had a good game. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are going to be a great two-headed running attack for that team. I think Javonte last week against the Chiefs played phenomenal football, and then this week obviously had another really good game. But yeah, what the Broncos did for DT was absolutely awesome. The Lions stink. I mean, like I said, they won last week. Finally, or won a couple weeks ago, I think, whatever it was, they finally got their monkey out their back. They got the win, but I think they're probably going to lose out at this point. They stink. They're really bad. Next, we have the Chargers defeating the Giants 37-21. The only thing that I really have written down for this game is that Justin Herbert is that dude. He legit, late in his career, could be one of the top 15 quarterbacks of all time, maybe top 10. This dude made some amazing, unbelievable throws. That deep pass that he threw for a touchdown, very few people in the NFL are making that throw. It was absolutely fantastic. I think he can win a Super Bowl at some point. That's how how good of a quarterback Justin Herbert is. Like I said, he makes some unbelievable plays. So I think if he, stays consistent, plays well, which is something the Chargers aren't very good at. The Chargers have been very inconsistent this year, but I think they're going to be trouble in the playoffs if they can just make it. But the inconsistency of that team, I don't know what causes the inconsistency. Maybe it's them being so aggressive on fourth downs that they take their, out of position to win, or whatever it is. But I think the Chargers, Justin Herbert is freaking amazing. I think him and Mahomes going at it for years is going to be really fun to watch, even though I hope Mahomes comes out on top every single time. But yeah, Justin Herbert, what an awesome game. What good throws that he can make all the time. For the Giants, what's there to say? They suck. And the only highlight that I saw of that entire game was Kyle Rudolph looking like a reindeer whenever he was running down the field. This game was bad. for the Giants. They stink. They tried to make it close at the end. Couldn't do it. They look bad. And the Giants are going to have to blow something up, change whatever they're doing, because they're a terrible team. Next, we have the 49ers defeating the Bengals 26-23. This game at the end was fairly crazy. I will say both teams really tried to make it close, both tried to pull out the victories. Joe Burrow had a great drive to tie the game. I thought Joe Burrow, Chase, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they all played great games. I think they all played fairly good. Jimmy Garoppolo had a great drive to get the 49ers in field goal range late in the game to win it. They missed it. And then Jimmy Garoppolo was great in overtime. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo was great the whole game. I mean, I know people like to hate on Jimmy Garoppolo, but I mean, he had a really, really good game. And I know he needs a running attack to be good, but I still think that Jimmy Garoppolo had an amazing game. I think he played really, really well. I don't understand some of the hate that he gets, because I think Jimmy Garoppolo plays well at times. Brandon Ayuk did have the game-winning touchdown for the 49ers. George Kittle is a freaking monster, one of the best tight ends in football. Like, my homerness from the Chiefs really wants to put Kelsey number 1, but man, George Kittle might be the number 1 tight end in football. He had 13 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown. Literally, they could not stop him. That's how great of a game that he had. Him, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, they're becoming a great offensive combo. And then, like I said, I don't understand the hate that Jimmy Garoppolo gets. The 49ers obviously need a run game to help him out, but like they showed a stat. I saw a stat somewhere where without Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers only win 20% of the games. And just as speaking of head coaches, I think Zach Taylor is absolutely terrible. There was a 4th and 2 in the red zone. I think it was in the first half. He should have went for it. He didn't, and then that caused the defense caused a punt for the 49ers, but then they muffed it on special teams. And then the 49ers were able to score a touchdown off of that. So that decision not to go for it led to a 49ers touchdown, which is that's bad coaching. You're at the 10-yard line. You really have got to go for it at that point. But the 49ers, quarterback-wise, I think Jimmy Garoppolo played great. Bengals, Joe Burrow, I thought played great. And the 49ers won 26-23. And the final game we have here is the Bills losing to the Buccaneers 33-27 in overtime. The Bills literally back-to-back weeks had to play the two teams and the person that has literally owned them for the longest time. They're falling apart because of Tom Brady and the Patriots. They literally can't escape them. Tom Brady owns the Bills. He's won like 33 games in his career against them, which is just nuts. I mean, last week they lost to the Patriots. And just as a whole, I thought Josh Allen and the Bills had a really gutsy performance. They looked terrible in the first half. They had 0 runs by a running back, which is kind of exposed why they lost last week to the Patriots, because they didn't have a run game, so they couldn't do anything in the wind. This game obviously wasn't windy. It was great weather condition for everybody to play well, and they played poorly. They, like I said, 0 runs by a running back in the first half, and that kind of last week exposed why the Bills couldn't win last week. And then the only person that ran the ball for Josh Allen, who I think Josh Allen had an amazing gutsy game the entire way. He ran all over the place, 109 rushing yards. I mean, he was making plays, running and throwing the ball. I mean, I still think the Bills have had a fairly mediocre season for what the expectations were. I mean, he has looked off compared to last year, but I mean, he had a really great second half. Very gutsy performance by the Bills. They tried so hard to get back into this game. They really, really did. But like I said, last week exposed the fact that they don't have a run game, and then this week just, kind of put the final nail in the coffin of, that they don't have a run game. That really hurt them. It killed them last week, like I said, and it killed them this week. Just the fact they refused to hand off the ball until the second half to a running back was just absolutely dumb coaching, bad idea. But I thought the defense for the Bills really stepped up in the second half, held the Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to only 3 points in the second half, but it was like mirror images. It was like 24-3 Buccaneers in the first half. It was 24-3 Bills in the second half, and then The Buccaneers ended up winning in overtime with a Rashad Perryman game-winning touchdown. There was a terrible defensive pass interference call that helped the Bucs win. I did not like that. I thought it was a terrible call. It shouldn't have been called. But yeah, I mean, just as a whole, I mean, the Buccaneers, they dominated the first half, kind of fell apart in the second half. Really didn't. This game really shouldn't have been as close as it was, because the first half, the Buccaneers absolutely dominated the Bills. But Tom Brady was running with his legs, for some reason, just going absolutely crazy. He ran the ball 7 times, which is just absolutely crazy. I don't know why Tom Brady would be running 7 times, but he did that. And he made some great throws to Mike Evans. One of them, he just floated him up there. And yeah, I guess the Buccaneers are obviously the better team. The Bills are struggling this season, but the fact that this game was as close as it was, I don't know who this really benefits, because the Buccaneers got the win like they should have, but at the same time, the Bills looked very gutsy, looked very strong at the end of this game to make it close, get it to overtime, and unfortunately losing in overtime. But that is my review for NFL Week 14. If there wasn't a game discussed in this video, that's because it was in a video by itself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.